Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Truth Works. I'm Jessica Neal. Patty McCord is going to be rejoining soon, so keep tuning in if you want to hear her. She's been out because she's had a little recovery time. But I have a really cool guest today. There's like a moment when every leader hits where the job stops being creative and starts being reactive and becomes a stream of updates and small decisions and fires. And the real leadership that you're supposed to be doing gets squeezed out. And the guest that I have here today, Jeff Seibert, has spent his entire career trying to solve that problem. He is the creator of Crashlytics, which is, I guess, I learned this in researching you. I guess this is like a thing that we probably all use, but we don't really even know we're using it, which you can explain to us later. And now he's a founder of this company called Digits, which he's going to tell us about. But what I'm so excited to talk to you about today is just that, like focus and chaos. And we just live in this weird reactive state all the time. And I want you to help us get into the strategic state, right? And then not even strategic, but where should we be spending our time? Hi, Jeff. Sorry.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, good. So tell everybody who you are, because I kind of described you, but tell everybody who you are and where you are today, and let's get into all this chaos stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. I'm Jeff Seibert. I'm the founder and CEO of Digits. We are building AI native accounting software, or really accounting software that works for you, that does all the tedium for you. And that's sort of the
Everybody just
theme.
was like accounting.
But I know the dots will connect because I had no background in finance or accounting. My whole life has been coding. I taught myself C when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
And I literally, like, what got me so excited about it back when I was 12 was I realized you could write the code once and the computer could do that 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so the energy invested was like not correlated to the output you could get. And I just felt that was so powerful. Like, what other activity do you do where that's possible?
None.
And so that I fell in love with. Anyway, moved out to Silicon Valley, went to college out here.
Wait, where were you when you were 12?
I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, I could kind of
In
hint that accent.
Yeah, in the city, sort of northern edge of the city near Johns Hopkins. And it was a great place growing up. That was awesome. Not a lot of technology going on. I had sort of stumbled upon this because my mom actually gave me the book Mac Programming for Dummies for Christmas in the mid 90s. And I had no interest or experience with computers. And I just sort of read it. And honestly, I didn't understand it. And
Right.
then I put it down. And 6 months later, that summer after school, I read it again and tried the Hello World example. And that's when the light bulb went off. And from that moment, I've just spent like most of my life coding.
Was there a reason why she wanted to buy you that for Christmas?
So I didn't know this or appreciate this at the time. She had actually minored in computer science in college and was
Interesting.
doing punch card programming. She
Wow.
never ended up using those skills really, but like had kept it in the back of her mind. It was amazing.
It's so cool. And ahead of her time as a
Definitely.
woman. Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, so then you moved to Silicon Valley. You went to Stanford, right? As many of you founders do. And so I'm guessing that was sort of your first kind of taste of like real like technology and this spirit of entrepreneurism. And yeah.
That was the main realization because I had been writing and selling software. I had my own sort of quote software company in high
You did?
school. I did.
What kind of software were you selling?
So many programmers get into it from gaming. And I
Ah,
had been
yes.
playing this game, this Mac desktop game, and I got bored of the game.
What was the
So
game?
I started, it was called Escape Velocity, one
Okay,
of the
I don't.
greatest games of the mid 90s.
Okay,
But I ended up getting bored of the game. And so I
okay.
then started hacking the game. And then I decided to write an editor to modify the game.
Of
And so
course.
then I sold this editor to the whole sort of community around the game for people to modify the game.
How much money were you making?
Not a lot. I think in total, I netted a couple thousand.
What'd you buy?
Oh man, I
Another
can't even
game?
remember. Yeah,
Another game?
no, what was interesting, I mean, this was the mindset difference because in Baltimore in the mid 90s, like I was like, I have a software company, right?
Yeah.
I write software, I sell software. I then came out to Silicon Valley, and at Stanford, no one talks about running a software company, right? It's a startup, it's high growth entrepreneurship, it's the idea of like how do you get what you build out to the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the total change in mindset. And I spent my entire time on campus going to entrepreneurship lecture series and trying to meet as many folks as possible. And this was now the early 2000s. Everyone was like, what's the next Google, right? Like, who's going to
Mm.
be the next big company to come out of campus? And so that was the really like light bulb moment of coming from the East Coast to the West Coast.
So then you're at Stanford, and then what happens?
So graduated 2008, right as the housing crisis
Yeah,
was
that's a
hitting.
great time. Yeah.
Really good time.
Yeah.
And a couple friends and I just sort of failed to apply to jobs. We were working on some side projects, and we had actually won a class competition to build a site. And so we just kept working on it, didn't apply to any jobs, ended up meeting a couple of investors, and we went into DFJ's offices on Sand Hill and met with an associate there and just wanted to show him what we had built. And we actually didn't think the meeting went all that well. But at the end of the meeting, he's like, let me just see who else is around. I'll be right back. And he comes back to the conference room with Tim Draper. And Tim goes, all right, you have 3 minutes. What did you build? And so we quickly show him our site. And he goes, how much are you raising? And of course, we weren't raising. We were just
Yeah,
there to
you
like
didn't
get
know.
advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we make up a number on the spot and say 500,000. And he literally says, I can do that. And he walks out.
Great. So
And
that's how
so
you've got your first funding.
that
Wonderful.
is literally how we got it. We later found out DFJ had what they called a silver bullet program where any partner could make a deal under $1 million, no questions asked.
I like that rule.
So
Yeah.
that was sort of interesting. But yeah, so that was our now like kickstart into startup life. So we ended up closing the round from them, got a little office space in Mountain View, and started building document collaboration software.
Okay.
That was sort of my first company. We ended up getting acquired by Box in 2009 as the first acquisition Aaron Levy ever made. And our tech powered all document preview, document display, collaboration on Box for the next 5 years, which was pretty cool.
So cool. And then you're like, I have to do it again.
So the problem is what I've described is I think I'm just cursed because I love coding. And so if I have nothing to do, I code.
Okay.
And it always like spirals into something. So at Box, they sent me back east. I moved to Boston to open and run Box's East Coast office. And we ran our sync team there. So competing with Dropbox because Dropbox
Okay.
was crushing Box at the time with their sync
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
And sync algorithms are super complex and buggy. And it started crashing a lot. And
Okay.
so I started spending my nights and weekends, of course, coding, learning about and trying to figure out how crash analysis would work, how we could automatically determine what line number of code we needed to fix.
Right.
And because again,
That's what I do on the weekends too. I mean, we're so similar.
back to your theme, that would save a ton of time,
Yes.
right? And so
Yeah.
I put this prototype together of what would become Crashlytics. And I actually called one of my friends from Stanford, who was Mikey Krieger, who had just started Instagram.
Uh-huh.
And Instagram then was still very small.
Yeah.
But I called him up and it was like, Mikey, I don't mean to be rude, but Instagram crashes. What do you do about it?
Yeah.
And he said, I get more crash reports per minute than I can read. And that was the light bulb moment for that. And I was like, okay, this is a startup.
Right. Yeah. And so then this Crashlytics has been implemented like everywhere.
We got so fortunate with market timing. So yeah, we launched basically at the end of 2011 as mobile was ramping and it took off. We were on 300 million phones within 12 months. We get acquired by Twitter. It keeps scaling. It then gets acquired from Twitter by Google in 2017. Today, it's on 6 billion MAU. So effectively every smartphone on Earth.
Look at you. Now
Just trying to
doing
save
it.
time.
I know, which I love. And now you're doing it again.
Now we're doing it again with digits and trying to fix accounting because accounting is so tedious.
It's so tedious.
And this
That's why I
actually
was like, you lost everybody with accounting.
Right. No.
But
So,
the accountants were like, yes. Well, maybe not. Maybe that you're going to,
no, they actually desperately want it because
okay, you're
you
not
talk with
getting them out of jobs.
hundreds. Yeah, you talk with hundreds of accountants. None of them enjoy the accounting, right? The
Right.
actual accounting is very tedious. They
Right.
love working with clients, advising the business, right? Like actually helping
Okay.
management strategy, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so if you can eliminate the accounting tedium, it's actually a huge unlock for the profession.
Okay. Well, look at you. So now you're doing that, but then you're on the side sort of talking about this time efficiency chaos thing too. Yes?
Yeah, it's just a broader passion of mine. I mean, going all the way back to middle school, I just felt like if you can help people save time by automating the parts they don't want to do, you just unlock so much more creativity, free time, other passion projects, whatever folks want to spend their time on.
Yeah. And maybe you kind of already mentioned this, but I too, as we were talking before we started recording, I too have kind of found that that's my life's mission too. Like, I never thought about myself as a chief human resources officer because that sounds horrible. I was the efficiency officer. Like,
Yes.
how do I make people more efficient? Because it's all the things like miscommunication and, nobody's got the context to, people are spending the time on the wrong things or they've got too many direct reports or like whatever. But and you might have touched on this already in just talking about your history, but what was like you had sort of this game and you were like, making the game more efficient for people. But was there like a moment in your career where you saw this and it just fueled that passion even more so?
So the funny thing is, it was actually somewhat in reverse. So I
Okay.
remember I was like in love with coding. And so
Right.
through high school, I wanted to spend all my time coding, but I had to do homework. And so I started
Darn
actually thinking it
homework.
I know, I started thinking about it from the reverse is like, what could I write to try to automate like homework and stuff so that I could spend more time coding?
Yeah. That's so funny. Did you? Were you able to automate
I
homework?
so there was one example. We had in science classes, we had this whole year we had to we had to deliver graphs as part of our homework assignments, right? Like histograms,
Okay.
bar charts, and so on. And the option was you could either draw them by hand, which most students did, or you could use Excel, which I always found way too complicated to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I actually wrote a Mac desktop app, again, back in the late 90s, to draw graphs. And so it made it very easy to just type in or import the data, and then boom, it printed out the graph, and I would print it out and turn it in as my homework.
Of course you did. I mean, kids, if you're listening, you can automate homework. There's a way to do it, especially now. I mean, back
Yeah,
then
well,
it was
now you
harder.
can probably automate
Yeah,
too much of the homework. It's a slippery slope.
I know. My 6-year-old doesn't have any yet, but I can't imagine by the time he does have homework how easy it's gonna do because it just is gonna get better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, so on the side from Digits, I'm actually chair of the technology committee for the high school I went to.
Wow, fun.
And so it's come full circle. And now we're advising the school on how to use AI, how to allow it for assignments, how not to allow it. It's actually a
Ooh.
really interesting problem space.
Well, yeah, and okay. Well, this kind of leads into the next question, but before I get to the next question, how should they use it in schools? I just want to know, like, what do you think?
Yeah, it really comes back to the invention of the calculator, which blew up math programs, right? And so, in a good way, right?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to use the calculator.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And so now, of course, everyone has a calculator in the form of their phone wherever they
right.
are 24/7. And
Yeah,
so there's no real need to learn long division and memorize all the different multiplication tables and so on. What's interesting with AI is there really seems to be two ways students are using it. Obviously, a lot of students are using it to try to cheat or get out of it and do the work for them.
of course. That would have been me.
What's been interesting is the really smart students are using it to push them and like
Uh,
help them understand better why something is true or not in their work and like go a level deeper than they're able to from the problem set or the textbook or whatever it is. And so we're also seeing kids get way ahead of their normal grade level because they're
yeah.
using the AI to tutor them.
And schools could train the AI to do that and not to do the inverse, correct? Like
That would be
not to
ideal.
like
I would hope so.
can you do that? I guess you could train
I
your
guess you could
agent.
probably fine tune it. Yeah.
Right. Say don't allow students to do XYZ,
Right.
right?
Right.
But be their coach, help them go deep, like, right? I don't know.
Totally.
You know more
Totally.
than I do.
Well, we had a really funny session where we had the class president, the sort of the student president of the school come and meet with the board. And we asked about the honor committee and like what's happening, because all of the honor violations are, of course, all AI related.
Right, of
And
course.
folks having ChatGPT write their essay and so on.
Right.
And we asked him, like, how do you know they cheated?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, it's so easy because you know the student, you can see their normal work and what they write, and then you see this, and it's like, come on, you obviously
They
didn't
would
write that.
never. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's the other thing, kids, if you're listening, don't gotta like tailor it to be you a little bit. You can't
right.
just have it be ChatGTP. Listen, I hated homework, you know? And wait, also with this memorization of like long division that we had to do you think because you're a math guy at the core, right? That's what coding's all about. Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't. It's a real difference, I think, between memorizing stuff versus understanding it. Like, I
Yeah.
think you should understand the premise of long division.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means you need to memorize the exact mechanics to do an arbitrarily hard division problem.
Yeah. Okay. Here, I hear you. Okay. So that leads to my next question, which is like, when AI removes like the noise and small decisions, like what type of insecurities, if we think about the workplace, does that reveal? Like with leaders and just more broadly?
That's a really interesting question. And I think touches on sort of one of my mindsets of like, where should leaders be involved? And so what I've told our team as we scale is like, for everything we take on all across the company, it doesn't matter which department or thing, I want to be involved in two places. I want to be involved at the 10% of the project. So I understand like what we're trying to do, why we're doing it, like what approach do we think we're going to take, just so like we have directional alignment at the start.
Yeah.
And then I want to be involved at the 90% phase so I can add the like remaining polish and like get in there and tweak the copy. Literally like polish the pixels, like are the corner radiuses correct? Like
Right.
what is the button location and all that stuff? Because that adds that like that just feeling of like, oh, this was really well thought through and well designed. And that goes for marketing, product, sale, everything we do across the company, like the pitch decks we use, etc.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think, like in thinking about these companies and insecurities, I think that I don't know what you see, but this is what I see. The companies that are sort of really embracing this idea of AI and allowing it to fuel ideas, fuel like mediation to this point of like going deeper at schools, like getting kids to go deeper. They're the ones that I see getting ahead, where the other ones that are more unsure or insecure about like, oh, well, if they're doing those types of tasks with AI, like, I don't know, like if that means they're working hard or not, right? Like, and then they're more scared of it. So what's your advice for leaders and companies on like, how should they, because I think nobody's really figured it out. Like we're all trying to figure it out. But what should their mission be, or where should they start?
yeah, I mean, I think obviously you should use the AI to save as much time as possible. And that's why you're seeing business move at a faster and faster pace. But you also, as a company, need to stand for something. And so what's been really interesting is you can have ChatGPT write a really good marketing blog post, right? Like, and you give it a little prompt and it spits out a post and like, that's pretty good. But then you need to realize, okay, well, it has just generated that from what it's read on the internet. So there's nothing probably uniquely special about it.
Right.
And so we use that as the first draft. We never use it as the final draft. It's like,
Right.
okay, what is interesting about this? What do we like, dislike, remove, restate? What other ideas can we add to like push it another 20% better? And so I think it's a really powerful brainstorming partner. But
Mm-hmm.
if you just take what it gives you, you're going to be mediocre at everything, right? Like it
Mm.
is by definition just going to be a mediocre output.
Because it's giving you that, like the average.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. And I don't know. I mean, I love ChatGPT. Like, and as like an ideator, right?
Hmm.
Like, because, and I sort of in the beginning was like, oh, like I should just automatically have these ideas. Like I
Mm.
kind of felt a little bad, like GTP was smarter than me.
No.
But
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's smarter than me. It like knows the whole internet and but I think then when I started to get better at using it was really like going deep, like this idea of like going deeper and getting ideas. And it's like an idea, but then I would ask it some questions that would make my idea a little bit better.
Yes.
And then it would like prompt my brain to go further
Yep.
because it was like,
Yep.
oh, I didn't think about that. What about that? You know, and then all of a sudden you're on sort of a different, you know, plane than you were when you started. But I think some of this fear though that maybe I had and other people have in the beginning, I think like organizations, and you've probably seen this, because they are scared of something or they don't know it fully. They're like, okay, we'll do it later. Like, so let's not do that. But I feel like if you're not doing this as a company, and I don't care like what industry you're in, you're gonna get left behind.
This is without question true. And like I can speak from firsthand experience seeing the accounting profession, because there are stereotypically, right? Everyone's like, oh, accountants are risk averse, old fashioned, move slowly, et cetera, et cetera. And there's definitely some truths to that in a general sense. But there are a ton of incredibly tech forward, very fast innovating firms that are adopting this stuff very quickly. And then, of course, the firms that aren't are going to be completely left behind. And so all the hype is like, oh, AI is going to replace you. No, not at all. You're going to be replaced by the people who use the AI, correct?
Right. Well, let's talk about that. So, because, you know, I was talking to a company the other day and they've been really encouraging their customer service agents to utilize AI more. And, you know, a few of them are, but a lot of them aren't because they're afraid that, you know, it is going to replace them. So they're like, well, you know I should, but I'm not going to because I'm always going to be better than the AI. Help us understand, like, because I haven't thought about it. I do think that there's a lot of work that will be repurposed. There's still a job for a human.
So,
So how do you think about that?
yes,
Explain it.
there's a macroeconomic principle called the lump of labor fallacy. And so this actually came out from the late 1800s. If you think back, like electricity, people were terrified of
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
going to replace jobs. And
Right.
obviously cars were going to replace jobs and all the people who kept and took care of the horses.
Right.
And so this principle, lump of labor fallacy, is that there is a lump of labor that the world needs to do. And as technology makes it more efficient, there'll just be less jobs because that labor will be automated, right?
Right.
It's completely fake.
Right.
So there is
It's never happened.
correct. It has literally never happened,
It's
right?
like only created more jobs to my
Correct.
knowledge.
And
Yes.
so it is true that the types of jobs do change. Like, yes, there are fewer people relying on horses every day, but it's not like the job just disappeared. They just migrated to new roles. And
Right.
so there will, I think, be a few years of some structural friction in the job market for sure as things are reshaping. But imagine 5 years from now, like it'll be very clear what jobs are still valuable and there'll be tons of those jobs because everything else is now moving faster because the tedium is gone.
Yeah. And what do you think about like all these companies say they're laying people off for AI? I just don't think it's true. I think they're
It's
using it as an excuse.
I completely agree with you. And there
Okay.
was data on this actually.
Okay.
I can't pull it up offhand, but there was a graph I saw on Twitter of basically all of the layoffs were actually driven by COVID overhiring, and they
Yeah.
are not correlated with AI use in that industry.
Yeah. I mean, and also it's just, I don't know, you and I are sort of closer to this than other folks because, you know, I'm in VC now and we're investing in companies like this, but I'm a board member and advisor on the side and I'm talking to companies and CHROs and CEOs about how to think about this. But it's not to a point where lots of roles are going to be eliminated. We're just not there yet. And maybe they're a little bit here, a little bit there, but not thousand, like we're gonna lay off 14,000 people, 20,000 people. Like I haven't seen
Yeah.
that in a company yet.
What will be interesting is the transition for the junior labor force. And so it is the case right now, if you are coming straight out of college as a computer science major and you are not very good, the job prospects are challenging for sure.
My poor nephews. they're
And so
they're coming into the labor market soon.
so this is what
I
I get
think they're
back to, right?
good, but you know, I'm their aunt, so I'm probably biased.
If they're what we're seeing though is for folks who have been using the AI to really up level their programming skills, they're incredible. You can
Okay.
find quote junior talent that performs at the level of a senior engineer or above. if they've been using the AI to sort of do their homework and they're not very good engineers, that is challenging. And so then you start to draw other parallels and like what will happen. And you look at plumbing as an industry, right?
Yeah.
You can't afford to hire a bad plumber.
Yeah.
Well, how does the industry prevent that? They have trade schools. And so it'll be really interesting how the technology industry evolves because you need senior engineers without question. It's
Sure.
how do you bridge people into that effectively so that they can
And so you
contribute?
think it's going to be like a trade school type of situation?
Possibly.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that. That's kind of interesting. So, if I am an engineer, which I'm not, but talking to all you people my entire career always made me want to be one. I'm jealous I'm not. But if I'm an engineer and I really want to utilize AI to help me get to that great engineer status, like what do I do? Because I think it's like to your point, like this thing, like don't let it do your work, make your job easy. But how do you get it to make you a great engineer?
Yeah. So what's been really interesting is seeing the progression of these coding tools because now they've been hyped for 2 years now. But last year, all the quote vibe coding tools were honestly terrible. I mean, the code output was
I've heard that
abysmal.
actually. Yeah.
Even this January, like it was pretty weak. I would just say starting this fall, they're now outputting decent code, but it's
Okay.
still not at the ability of like a senior engineer. My
Right.
recommendation for folks who want to level up is use Cursor, like Codex, et cetera, et cetera. Give it a prompt, have it write something, and then you should refactor it yourself.
Uh,
And that's how you learn code structure and what's good and bad and how it was working. Like push yourself to find a bug in what it did. Like use it to like use it as sort of the base case that then you need to make 3x.
yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because to your point, like that, we used to talk about it like when we were hiring great engineers at Netflix. We used to talk about it as like the engineers that wrote the most elegant code, right?
Yes,
And like that is like a skill, and
100%.
it takes a lot of creativity, and it's not just like something that you can just automate. Like, and the guys that didn't have that level of thinking and creativity and skill, they were not they kind of got weeded out over time and were not in the organization. And we tried to saturate it with the folks that are like this. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
With the way I've described it is like different levels of engineers will understand the code at different levels. Like you can just read it line by line and sort of know what it's trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Truly great engineers actually understand the code at a theoretical level. Like
Right.
what in theory is the problem we're solving? How is that broken down into these components that are then expressed in the code?
Yeah. Ugh. Well, all you engineers, listen up. This is important stuff. Okay. We're going to switch it a little bit. And I wanted to talk to you about like utilizing AI for like critical feedback, like for people. Like, have you seen it be good at that yet? Or have you tried that?
Honestly, I've not tried that. I also haven't heard of any examples where it's good at that. So that would be
Okay.
super interesting to know. I mean, I'm sure
Because it
folks are
starts
using it
to know you pretty well.
that. Oh, and you're saying for self feedback.
Well, it could be like how, it could be like if they know your relationships with folks, and I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep. I have not personally used it for that.
Well, maybe we should both give it a try. I've done it for like, I've asked it questions like from personal perspective, like tell me what I'm not thinking about, tell me what questions should I be asking that I'm not asking. Like I've done stuff like that. And it's okay. Okay. If I'm a leader and I'm using AI and the intention that you're describing, right? And having it, you know, do more of the task driven stuff, and I get all this time back, right? And then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Because I'm really good at I think a lot of leaders, like with all of this reactive stuff, it feels good because they feel like they made an impact, like did something like, oh, I did that. Okay. Like that's good. And then, some of the more proactive, strategic stuff, you may not get that like immediate, like, you know, response, right?
Right. Totally.
And then you're feeling like, oh, I'm not really doing much. So, with all this time, where should leaders really be focusing? Where should they be spending their time?
That is a great question. And to me, it's entirely on forward looking stuff. You want to be way ahead of your team. So let's say your team's working on what matters today, right? Your product managers and design team should be at least a couple weeks ahead of that. So they're sort of plotting out what's the next project, how it's going to work, what it's going to look like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As an executive or CEO, you want to be probably another month ahead of that because you want to start thinking through like what's going to be important to the company, what the groundwork do we need to lay today to unlock that. The way I think about it is second order effects. It's very easy to pick priorities to invest in as a company and be like, okay, we'll do it ABC, right?
Right.
I want the sequence to actually yield like an order of magnitude better outcome down the road because it unlocks some second order effect.
Okay.
And to me, that's the hallmark of like a strategic initiative for the business. What are you investing in a little bit today that actually creates this outsized opportunity next quarter or next year or whenever it might be? And that's what you need to spend your time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. But what if they feel like they don't have the answer to that, or they're not, I don't know, like they've got
Then
this
you need to
time
be
and
talking
then
with more customers.
yeah,
Right? So if
that
you're not
that'll help.
like if your time isn't caught up in the day to day working on obviously HR issues or data issues or whatever it might be, get out there and talk to customers.
Yeah. When since you've been doing this for a while and when you've had to do that, what was the sort of most eye-opening conversation you had with the customer, like, in recognition that maybe your product wasn't, doing what it needed to be doing? Tell us a good story.
Yeah, the iconic one in my mind. So this was way back in 2018 when we were starting Digits, and I had no personal background in finance or accounting. So I read two accounting textbooks cover to cover. We hired UCLA's professor of accounting to give our team a
Okay.
private class. I met with hundreds of heads of finance and accountants and so on because I wanted to understand the space as quickly as possible. And so I met with this director of finance at a large Menlo Park startup, so like a growth stage startup. And I was like, tell me about your day. And she was like, great, it's Friday. I tell you about my Friday. Every single Friday, I reconcile employee expenses. And I was like, okay, great. So what do you do? And she's like, well, I log into our payroll system and I get all the expenses and then I need to bring it into the accounting system. And so I export it, but the columns don't line up. So then I bring it into Excel and then I manually edit the columns and then I copy it into this and then I upload that and then it does this and then I need to clean up some things. And I was like, this is a huge waste of time, right? Like,
Yeah.
why don't they just talk together? And so I asked her, well, that sounds like a lot. How do you know you didn't make a mistake? And I was expecting some sort of automated process, right?
Right.
No, not at all. Her answer, completely deadpan, was what gets messed up all the time. That's why we audit it.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, so if this was just hooked up, not only would it save you time every Friday, but you wouldn't need to audit it either.
Right. Yeah. Like, think about all that time.
And so the way this then years later represents in our product is so in accounting, everyone thinks about the bookkeeping, right? You're spending all these hours pushing transactions into your ledger. You then have to audit it.
Right.
And the accountants reconcile your bank statement to your
Yeah.
physical PDF, like
Yeah, you have to have
your bank
Ernst&
account
and
to
Young
physical
and
PDF
all these
statement.
people come in and audit everything.
Exactly. So in
Yeah.
Digits, we do that automatically with AI, and each transaction is reconciled to literally the pixel bounding box on the statement. So you
Wow.
can mouse over the transaction and then see the snippet of your bank statement where it came from.
Amazing.
And not only, of course, does that make the bookkeeping basically 100% accurate, it eliminates the audit because the whole point of the audit is to tie it to that source.
Right. So what's Ernst& and Young and all these companies think about Digits?
So they're actually very excited because all the money is in what's called CAS or client advisory services,
Yes.
which really is going to converge with management consulting.
Right. Okay. So then they just do more of that.
Yep.
You're not taking jobs, just like we said.
No,
You're just
exactly.
repurposing them. Okay. I think you talk about this idea of like the cognitive load
Yes.
that all this stuff does, and that's kind of what we're talking about. But like, how should people think about that?
So this, yeah, is a common topic in HCI or human computer interaction and software design and sort of goes back. I started my career as an engineer at Apple way back in 2006. And it just imbued in me the like focus and value of simplicity, minimalism, elegance, and just like sort of intuitive software. And I was lucky enough to like work there when Steve was there. I got to present to him at one point.
I was going to ask if you met him.
I did. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And you can just see his insane, like, sort of mental clarity. I would
Right.
describe it as, and just like
Yeah.
focus on obsession with like, this is what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And so cognitive load is basically the concept of like how much extra processing does your brain need to do in order to understand how to achieve something. And
Yeah.
so think of your computer screen. If there was one button and that's what you wanted to achieve, boom, there's no load, right?
Right.
If your screen has 100 buttons on it, the feature is still there, but now it's buried or distracted by these 99 other buttons. Now that's a nightmare.
Right.
And so we spend a lot of time trying to design and build software that is as if Apple would have built it, even though, of course, they'll never enter the accounting software industry.
But I think, like, when I think, I probably think about it more in, like, human terms than,
Hmm.
like, building software terms. But, like, there's a cognitive load on your brain, just like you said, like, there's all these things going on, and the right feature is often buried with all the things that you should be focusing on that you're not,
Yeah,
right? Because you're doing
totally.
all this other stuff that really
Totally.
isn't all that important and isn't gonna move the needle, and, our brains are kinda like our, you know, OS of our body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it is interesting. My wife hates this, but
Uh,
I can't stand fiction. So I don't read fiction books. I don't watch movies. I don't watch random TV shows because I just feel like the actual world has so many problems. I don't need to bother my brain with someone's fake problem.
yeah, no, that's true. No, I'm with your wife though. I watch a lot of I like to disengage in
Hmm.
my problems and focus on other people's problems because it makes me feel better about my life,
Yep. Yep.
or escape my life. Okay, so I've been peppering you with questions, and we're about running out of time. But I just think I always like ask our guests to leave our listeners with like some advice or like nugget of things. And so, what do you want to leave us with today? Like, what should we go
Mm.
away thinking about or doing?
So many different ways to take that. I would say right now we are obviously at the peak of the AI hype cycle. And right, it's just like every product has AI. Just like a few years ago, every product had crypto, even though the crypto was useless and didn't do anything for the
Yeah,
product.
or now we're in the cloud.
Right. Or now we're in the cloud. Exactly. Exactly. And so my advice would be to really cut through the noise and focus on trying things and adopting things in your business that address where your team is spending time. And there's a lot of like, oh, you can use it for image generation and to write the blog post and do the things. But like, unless that is your core competency, like your company does marketing blog posts, focus actually on your company's core competency, not the action you need to do all around that. And understand what types of models, what types of products could actually help automate that, because that will give you tremendous sort of tailwinds as you try to scale. And there's so much noise and hype around chatbots and so on. It's like I don't need another thing to talk to,
Yeah,
right? Like why do I have to tell the AI what to do? Why doesn't it know what to do?
right.
And so pick whatever your business's core competency is, and then try to orchestrate that process so that the AI understands that core competency and simply achieves it. And based on the industry, obviously you'll get varying degrees of success, but I think the winners in 5 years will be the ones who push that the furthest.
Yeah, what's example of somebody doing that really well today? Is there that you can share?
I mean, this is again because we're so focused on accounting. I'll give an accounting example.
Okay.
But the month end close process is more tedious than you would ever imagine, right?
Yeah,
For every business on earth, at the end of every month, they're going through and booking all the transactions, reconciling them all, updating all the accrual schedules to manage your fixed assets, prepaid expenses, like all these things that normal people don't think about.
right.
And this takes hours per
Yeah,
business.
yeah,
Even really small businesses, it's like a 6 to 10 hour process.
yeah.
And basically by end of next year, I expect the month end close process to be automated.
Oh,
And so you'll be able to close the books for your company in under an hour. And that'll dramatically change what finance teams are then capable of doing.
yeah. All right. Well, you accounting professionals, I know you're all listening. So get digits. It's going to help you. Okay. We're going to roll into career confessions. Okay. Will you indulge me in giving some
Please.
advice to one of our listeners? Okay. So here's a little context for the question. I spend so much of my time reacting to updates and small decisions that I'm not really leading. If AI removes that workload, I'm not sure how to redefine my role or where my focus should go, which we kind of talked about earlier. Here's the question: what should leaders actually do with the time AI gives back? How do I build new habits so I'm leading strategically instead of just filling the space with more tasks?
This is a really good question because it ties from like email overload, where if you're just like constantly in your email inbox, you're not actually getting anything done. You're just responding to email. Now we're seeing the same thing with Slack. You're getting pinged from 50 different people during the day. I need to be unblocked on XYZ. It's really hard. I think you need to set sort of boundary hours of like, okay, I'm available for like quick decisions for this period of time in the morning and the afternoon. And otherwise, I'm blocking off these periods for like sort of deep thinking. And I struggle with this as well because you want to keep your team unblocked, but you also can't drown in the updates and only be reactive.
Right.
And so it goes back to, I think, what we discussed a little bit ago: block off time every day with you and potentially one of your other senior leaders to think about the future. Like, okay, what are we doing in 2 months? Why is that super important? What do we have to unblock even this week to really enable that? And I think that exercise will start getting you back into more of a leadership mentality.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it, I'm not used, so I'm not going to be coding or doing other things like that. But I've been a leader for most of my career. And when I think about like the impact or the most impactful that I am is when I'm spending time with my people, right? When I'm understanding their work on a deeper level, or if I'm spending time with other leaders in the organization understanding their work, the things that are hard for them. When I do have that opportunity to go on a walk with another person, thought partner that's going to push me, and we go on a walk and we talk about a hard problem, that that time, even though it doesn't seem like I'm accomplishing something in the moment, I really am. And the time that you can spend with your people is really, the ROI on that is exponential, right? Because you're changing the conversation from tactics to like, let me invest in you, let me understand more about you. And that goes a long way.
And if you show them the sort of trust and psychological safety to execute, and you give them the context they need to execute in the right direction, of course,
Yeah.
it's a superpower, right? Like
Yeah.
then your team can cruise ahead.
Yeah. No, I always thought about my job as like not a controller. And this is something that Reed, our CEO, like drilled into us, was your job is context, not control. And so, every day I woke up thinking about like, does this person have the context that they need to succeed today? Oh, no, they don't. And that would be how I would figure out how to spend my time.
That's perfectly put. I could not agree more.
Yay! Oh my gosh, Jeff, I really had fun today. This
This was
was
awesome. Thanks for having me.
amazing. Yeah, you're welcome. I hope that you come back, and I hope that now we can be friends because, I want to hang out with you more.
Let's do it. That sounds
Okay.
fantastic.
And I really want to see what happens with digits. Like, this is, it sounds so exciting, especially for accountants.
Yeah, it's like who knew accounting could be sexy again?
Yeah. You're bringing sexy back for accounting. I love it. That
Exactly.
you guys should just play Justin Timberlake in every pitch session that you have.
That is perfect. I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.